Hello everyone. What I'd like to do today is talk about the psychology of my stalkers. You see, I've been targeted by DoD for approximately 30 years. And over the last 5 years, the FBI have gotten involved. And so a lot of their people have been out front. So I've gotten to listen to people be groomed for the position of targeting me. And in doing so, I've engaged my stalkers considerably. You see, in 2011, they started talking. They started talking through V2K. And anyone who is familiar with V2K, it's just a method of communication where someone with a remote device can put audible information on a person's central nervous system. They can hear it, and they can extract information. Okay, so really it creates a two-way conversation, the possibility of that. And I have engaged them in conversation considerably, trying to understand what are these people all about? What are their priorities in life? And in doing so, I have assembled a set of 6 priorities that I've seen within them consistently. And I mean, this is kind of like every moment of my waking hours, doing this, trying to understand them. And I really am done. I'm done engaging them. I don't want to anymore. I think I understand them pretty well. I've watched the process that's been used to take FBI agents and make them stalkers, to give them their priorities, to give them the sadistic needs and all that I see in my stalkers. And I see a lot of consistency. So with that, I'd like to go through these 6 priorities. And I know as I'm doing this, they don't want me to. I'm being followed right now. I'm still in Quebec. And I'm being followed right now. I've been attacked with considerable pain all day long. And those that that are doing this to me, they don't want me recording this information, because I really do think it embarrasses them, to say the least. And I think they see it as me being accurate in my analysis of them. So let me begin. 6 priorities. Priority number 1. Those that follow me, those that stalk me, their highest priority in life, and this is their highest priority. The people that do this, I've found normally they have no family. And men that were married, they're not married. They got divorced shortly after getting involved with this technology and this programs. So these are really their priorities in life. Priority 1, I call it hurt him. That means that the highest priority in life for them is to hurt me. Their highest satisfaction is gained by hurting me. And I listen to the grooming process that takes place when they hurt me. And they're given an incredible positive reward, reinforcement for hurting me. And I've listened to people say that just the memory of hurting me is rewarding in and of itself. I've heard people say, oh, we remember back when you were doing this or you're doing that and we were hurting you, and oh, it was so good. Described just like that, oh, it was so good. So priority 1, hurt him. Priority number 2, I call it worship him. The people that stalk me, they'll often get together and I'll hear them talking about things they've observed in me. and they'll say he this or he that or he, all kind of building me up as if I'm some type of a movie star or somebody, that's really special. And to them, I am. I'm the most important one in their life. And they do this worship me thing. They want to follow me everywhere. They want to be involved in everything that has to do with my life. And it appears when they're groomed for this, that things that they might normally do in life, maybe what gave them pleasure in the past, doesn't anymore. They don't care about family, wives, children, their career, any of that. What's really important is me. And they talk almost like they're very depressed. Because if I'm engaged in something that maybe takes a little work, whether I'm going camping and I'm setting up my tent, they follow me camping. And they sit there in their car as long as I am camping to watch me camping. And I'll hear them say, oh, I would never do that. Oh, I would never do that. It doesn't matter what I'm doing if it takes any effort at all. They're saying how they would never do that. They just sound very, very depressed toward all other areas except me. So the second priority is to worship me. And toward that end, they remember every little thing about everything that I do. All kinds of things memorized. They just want to be part of everything. And it's clear that when I'm asleep, they're together discussing me. That's how it appears, as if they have expertise. And when they brag to each other, it appears as if they brag by showing each other that maybe they followed me longer or they know more about me and that type of thing. It's really, it's kind of hard to listen to. It's hard to believe they're grown men, but they indeed are. So priority 2 is worship him. Priority 3, I will call it sexually assault him. They have to be a perpetual sex offense. It seems so. It's part of their violence toward me. And while they're being groomed for the position, the men are all having sex with each other. It's motivated by the electronics and all. And it's not really about any sort of relationship with each other. It's more of an assault. That's how it appears. That's how it sounds. And the longer I've listened to that and all, it's really them assaulting one another and fantasizing of me. Toward that end, with the electronics, they have to attack my genitals all day long. And they do. And because of that, it compromises my testosterone. And I've gotten... What happens with a man with compromised testosterone, he'll get osteoporosis. And so I try to increase my testosterone by doing some exercising and some weightlifting and such. And that helps boost natural testosterone, but still it's hard. It's hard to make that happen. And when testosterone is reduced, you get osteoporosis. And for a while, I was breaking ribs and toes. Most of my toes have been broken. In fact, the other day, I just bumped my little toe, and it broke. And it kind of bled out under the skin, and it's all swollen up and everything. And when I did it, I said, it's probably not broken, because even though it hurt, because I didn't hit it that hard. But it did. It broke it, and it seemed like it was a significant break. So, priority number 3, it's a sexual assault. These men, as they're following me, and priority 2, worship him. It's like they're all talking about them, every one of them, at some point, being in a relationship with me when this is over. It's almost like they're all in the running. That's how they talk. And the fact is, I am a heterosexual man, and I have a wife that I hope to be reunited with in the coming times, and they all know that. But they act incredibly jealous. If I'm walking through a crowd and I notice an attractive woman, and I mean, they're attractive, so men notice them. That's why they are attractive. I mean, heavens to Betsy. I don't gawk at people, but a man can't help but notice an attractive woman. If I do, they're yelling at me. They're upset with me. They'll say, like, come on, Jeff. Like I've offended them. And it happens consistently. It's a jealousy. So there's this need to hurt me, and then this need to worship me, and this need to sexually assault me. And then there's the fourth priority. And what I noticed as their fourth priority, I called it originally hurt one another. Because I noticed the men that do this, they love to hurt each other. I mean, in any way that they can. And if one of them is upset over something, the other one might be there beaming and be very, very happy that their partner is upset. And these are their workmates. They're happy to hurt each other any way that they can. And I've seen that. These FBI agents that are kind of running interference between the DOD people, the NSA people, and me, and law enforcement, that's kind of their place. That they're keeping law enforcement back, and they're carrying these things out up front. In 2017, and prior times also, actually over the years, I assembled a method of causing their equipment to malfunction. And I'll post pictures of that and I'll talk more about that another time. But it was a system of 5 different radio transmitters, a ham radio, 2-meter VHF transceivers I used, with cooling fans on them all, and a Hewlett-Packard function generator. I had them all in my vehicle, with 5 antennas on the roof, an inverter, and a deep cycle battery, and a charger and all. Well, anyway, it took me a while to determine how to set this up, and it just came a little bit at a time. But ultimately, what I was able to do is cause their transducers. Now, the transducer is the part that produces a microwave signal that couples up to the victim or the target's central nervous system. I could take and drive the power output from that transducer very high, and I'll show another time how I did that. I could drive it so high that anyone else in the vehicle that's following me would get burned. And they'd get burned all over their body because the microwave signal is so strong. And I heard people would have lost their eyesight because of it. Now, it's not my equipment that's dangerous to them. It's my equipment making theirs dangerous. My ability to drive their equipment to extreme power levels. In 2017, Sonlist, which is a defense contractor, I believe they work for General Dynamics, they were supplying people to help out. So the FBI they're kind of out front. I still believe there's NSA people kind of controlling things. But then you got these Sonlist people. And they'd have the Sonlist people in a vehicle with that transducer, and they'd be following my vehicle. And I would be running my equipment, and the FBI, using subliminals and mood control, thought control and all, they would talk the Sonlist people in very close to me. And in the process, they'd get them burned. I was running my equipment to discourage them from following me. The FBI used that as a strength. They love hurting people. According to Priority 4, that's really what I'm still talking about, where they hurt each other. and I've gotten off on a little bit of a tangent, but it's an interesting one. And it makes them nervous that I talk about this, because they're a little bit upset about me talking that they did this to a group of soundless people. But they would talk them in very close. And so these people would get burned all over on their body. And I'm sure they lost their eyesight as a result, or some of them did, or they had extreme eye damage. And the damage that I've heard take place, they don't get it right away. They don't get it right away. That's my phone. I'm going to let it go, and I'll pick it up in a moment. Anyways, the eye damage that comes from the microwave exposure, they don't lose their eyesight right away, but in time, it just slowly decays until they can't see. And I've heard that has happened. I heard it happen to some FBI, and they knew that. They knew that would happen. So while I was running this equipment, they used the opportunity to hurt each other. They would talk them in close. And I would be trying to tell them, back away, shut it off, and you won't get hurt. Because your equipment's hurting you. But if you get close to me, you will get hurt and you'll go blind, possibly, maybe get cancer. Radiation burns. Shut it off. But they wouldn't. The mind control is very, very strong. So when I would take a ride, I'd have my equipment running. The FBI would talk to soundless people in close. They'd get burned. The next day, they'd get 2 new people to follow me from soundless. And this went day after day. And a number of people, I believe, were hurt. Finally, I called the president of soundless, Andrew Torriello, at his home. He didn't answer the phone, but I left a message. And I told him, I accused them of their people following me. And I accused them of renting houses on my street so that the FBI could use them. And immediately they pulled all their people out. And they were gone. So that whole thing stopped. But the agents that were doing it were so excited about being sadistic, about hurting people, that they just stepped up the attack on me. I mean, it just went right up, because they needed to hurt people, and they needed to hurt me. It's a psychological need that they have, and the more they enforce it, the more sadistic they become. And so the more they need to, the more they need to hurt me, or hurt someone. Okay, so that's kind of a bit of an explanation of priority 4, where they hurt each other. I expanded that. Originally I called it hurt one another, but then I got to see how beyond that they like to cause disturbance anywhere they can. Anywhere. In any organization, they just love causing disturbance. And so I expanded it to call it raise hell. So they raise hell with each other, with anything, anywhere they can cause trouble, they do. The result is they don't function as a team. And it appears as if they're groomed that way. It appears as if they're groomed to be a lone wolf. And this priority 4, where they raise hell, they start with their families, they get divorced. And they just get very, very involved in following me, and it's all they want to do. They don't want to go back to being, doing what they were doing for the FBI, whatever it was. They just want to be attacking me as first priority, and that 4th priority of hurting each other, they love that. It's very satisfying to them. Okay, so priority 1, hurt him. Priority 2, worship him. Priority 3, sexually assault him. Priority 4, raise hell. Okay, and beyond that, priority 5, perpetuate this. There can't come an end to them stalking me. They can't allow it. Not even for minutes. I've been in a situation where I was in a traffic jam, at least in the lane I was in. and it's two-way traffic. So I got to a light and I took a left. Well, they're still back in traffic, which means they got to wait a few minutes in order to follow me. And so what's happening is I'm slipping away. I can hear the excitement and the panic in their voices. And apparently they went right down the left-hand side of the road into oncoming traffic in order to take that left-hand turn and not lose me. They knew where I was going. I was going home. I was not even 10 minutes from home. And they know where I live. They're set up there, and they have been in different houses near my home. And so there's no way they're going to lose me except for maybe 10 minutes. That's unthinkable. They panic. And so perpetuate this is a big deal. And they're willing to put their careers on the line and their life on the line, put their health on the line, put anything on the line to perpetuate this. That's priority 5. Priority 6, simulate work. Simulation of work really is about perpetuation. So when they decide, let's say the FBI, they have to be looking like they're investigating something. They can't be just working for DOD, running interference, keeping law enforcement out of the way. So they have to call it an investigation. I called them on the phone, and they told me, there's an ongoing investigation. We can't discuss it with you, sir, but we'll note you call. They have to make it look like their work. I talked to FBI, I think 3 different times on the phone. They have to make this look like their work. So the way that they perpetuate is to continually simulate work. And so I think it's kind of interesting. Those 6 priorities, they just seem to hold. And the first 4 I identified with just DOD people following me. And maybe the last 2 are more unique, because it's FBI and because they have to justify perpetuating by simulating work and all that. Well, the DOD people, they're just hired. And they just follow me no matter what. Now, these priorities, they seem to be driven by intense fear. For example, hurt him, priority number 1. They're scared of me having pleasure. If I just think for a minute, because the subconscious thoughts come through audibly. I've heard them when they play them back to me. So whatever I'm thinking, they're getting audible information out of their computer to help them understand my thoughts. So if I just think for a minute that, I feel a little better. I feel a little happier today. I feel less depression. Because they send constant pain that feels like emotional pain. So while I'm not depressed because of my thoughts, I feel like I am. So it's still painful. If I start feeling less pain in that regard, they immediately react by turning it up. They're scared of my pleasure. If I do anything to relieve my pain, whatever I may do or take or whatever to relieve my pain, that scares them. And they have to respond by giving me more. Okay, and it really is a fear. I've seen it in them. It is a fear. They fear my pleasure. So priority 1, they need to hurt me. And what drives that, it appears, is a powerful fear of me having pleasure. Priority 2, they need to worship me. And toward that end, they can't stand the thought of being away from me, not even for 5 minutes. And that is true. Like I spoke of in the traffic jam. They'll risk their life. Whatever it takes, they will risk it to stay with me. And even if it means losing me for 5 minutes, they'll put themselves at considerable risk to prevent that. They're afraid of losing me. And they know that they have constant discomfort wired in to the signal that's hitting me. I mean, I heard all over all the time, and from there they just make it worse. They're afraid that if I lose the influence of that signal, that I'll feel better. So because of priority one, they need to hurt me. The fear that drives that scares them. So there's these intense fears. Priority number three, they fear my sexual pleasure. Like I said, just glancing at an attractive woman or something. It doesn't matter, just a glance and me noticing that she's attractive. That upsets them. And they respond in sort of a jealousy. And a jealousy is the fear of losing the one, the beloved, so to speak. And so again, a really strong fear. And right down the line. So I guess that's the way I see it. These men have 6 priorities. They need to hurt me. They need to worship me. And you'd think with just those 2, they're mutually exclusive. I've said many times, if I ever felt the need to hurt the people that I'm drawn to, I would run to the hospital and beg them to let me in. I mean, you can't live with that. That will ruin you. It will hurt the people around you. But that's how they are. And they seem to enjoy it. So they need to hurt me, worship me, sexually assault me, raise hell, perpetuate this, and simulate work. Let me talk just for a minute about the process that I've seen them put through. Because it does seem like these priorities in me make up the biggest part of their emotional needs, their physical needs. Some of them were family men. Some of them, if I'm reading the Bible, reading the scriptures, they know the scriptures. But that's all part of their past. Those things, they divorce their wife. They get away from their family. It's all part of their past. It's as if in the grooming process, anything that they liked doing before, it's all been taken away. Like everything is a black hole. And the only bright spot in that black hole is me. And the only way to approach me is to hurt me and worship me and sexually assault me and then raise hell. And that priority of raise hell, I think it helps them become a lone wolf. Because normally the people that follow, they don't, in my experience, they don't do it as a group. They're more of a lone wolf. And I tend to think they're kind of groomed like a suicide gunman. They come after me, they threaten my life, they really want to be doing that. And if they're successful and I should die, they lose everything. And at that point, I think it would be very easy for their handlers to cause them to commit suicide. I tend to think that the Department of Defense does not want these people unwinding. And psychologists and others being able to unravel them and find out what was done to them. Because what has been done to them is pretty extreme. And I do believe it's permanent. The reason I say that is because I listen to the grooming process. They're caused to hurt me. And when they hurt me, they're rewarded for it. Now, this equipment can cause incredible pain, and it can cause incredible reward. So, they hurt me, and they're given an extreme reward. And that might include sexual climaxes and just an all-over, really, really good feeling. And this is done over and over. What they'll do often, every day, sometimes more than once a day, they attack my colon. And when they do that, it creates IBS. So I have to run to the bathroom. And they all want to be part of that. I know this is disgusting, but that's the way it is. It happens every day. And they want to be part of it. They're sitting at a monitor at the display. And attacking my colon, focusing on my rectum, and they're given sexual climaxes while they're doing it. I've listened to the whole thing. It's really gross, but it causes them to believe that somehow that part of me is going to make them happy in the future. And they want to do it every day. This is the grooming process. So hurting me, they're given a lot of positive reinforcement when they hurt me. And when they worship me, and then the sexual assault, and when they're hurting each other, they're just having such a good time. The things that we humans and animals, the things that we enjoy, we want to do again. And look at a situation, say, with a sex offender. We say that a sex offender can't be cured. So we label them a predator and we track them to warn people that they will be inclined to want to offend sexually again. And so we warn society. And a sex offender becomes that once they offend. So they do something wicked to someone else, adult or child. They do something wicked, and they're given a positive reward for it, and that being the sexual climax. That's probably the body's most powerful reward system. It drives people to procreate and animals to procreate. But when people engage in a sexual offense, they're doing something wicked, and they're getting that positive response, and they're going to want to repeat it. And as a society, we know that. And so we label them predators. The men that do this, they have gotten an awful lot of positive reinforcement for doing these wicked things. And hurting me is top priority, and that's what is the most satisfying for them. And I've listened to them decay. There was times in earlier years where if I was to feel tearful because something made me sad and I cried, I would hear them talking. They'd say, "Don't, stop, don't make him cry," because nobody wants to hurt him when he's crying. All those kinds of values that remained in their conscience have long since evaporated. They don't care how badly they hurt me. Like a gang of bullies, if I fall, they want to kick me when I'm down. They want to hurt me even more. If I'm seeking relief for the pain that they're causing me, that's confirmation that I'm getting hurt, and they want to keep hurting me and hurt me more so. It's like they can't get enough. It's truly an addiction to violence. It's a sex addiction and an addiction to violence. And like with any addiction, enough is never enough. And when we end up addicted to something, that's just the way it goes, whether it's a substance or some behavior. Enough is never enough. And it's just not a good thing. It doesn't end good. But with these men, that's built into them. They're groomed. They're mind controlled. And I believe it's permanent. I do. If a sex offender, because of experiencing a sexual climax when he's doing something wicked, if that alters him for life, such that he will do it again, and we need to warn people that he might, then what I've seen these people do, the DOD people and the FBI, what I've seen them engage in, I believe makes them dangerous men. Not just to me, but to anyone. And so, I would advocate for taking these people and locking them up, and maybe studying them to understand what has happened. And toward that end, if people have seen my other videos, during 2015 into 2016, I took a woman in, Stephanie Jaworowitz, who was targeted, and they worked with her and it took a period of time, and they got her to attempt my murder. And that was a really serious situation. But I watched the way they groomed her and everything. It took time to make that happen. And these men were very, very violent toward her. And I was going to make a point regarding that, but it kind of slipped from my mind. Be that as it may, a serious situation where I think these people need to be rounded up. They need to be analyzed. Oh, now I remember what I was going to say. When ultimately had Stephanie Joarowitz attempt my life, I knew it wasn't her fault. I knew she was a victim, and so I tried to spar around with her and just keep away from the knife. And knives like that, if the knife doesn't get to you, well, you can't get hurt by it. And I ultimately got her to back down. After she was gone from my home, there was a whole pile of notes that she had written while they were grooming her to try to get her to do that. And it's pretty extreme what they do. And I felt for the woman, and I still do, because they hurt her bad. And then to get her to do that, that is not of her personality at all. I saw her to be a lovely person in every way. But they got that behavior to take place. And she was one to take a lot of notes. I have those notes in a safe deposit box. And I'm keeping them so that when this whole thing is over, and I believe it's going to be, the state police are investigating my state. There's going to be trouble. But I want to get together with people who have understanding of human psychology and with police and all, and try to understand what was done there, and use all the notes and things to make that happen. I think it could benefit. I think it could be beneficial, without a doubt, to understand what's being done here. To understand, is there a lot of violent crime being driven by this technology, by the Department of Defense? And why are they manufacturing dangerous humans, and why are they attacking us? A lot of questions, and there seems to be an awful lot of targeted people out there. And that's what I seem to be finding. One time in recent weeks, I was staying with a friend who was targeted in East Hartford. And while I was there, the FBI had been following me, and they were just poking around the neighborhood to see who else might be targeted. And they said they couldn't believe how many people were being targeted right there on that street and on the other streets. Now, I went outside with a directional antenna and my transceiver tuned to 157.740, and that's why I pick up a digital packet signal coming from their equipment. And I was sensing that signal coming from all different directions. So it seemed to confirm what I was hearing in V2K. A lot of people being targeted. And that's just one location. And this is the Department of Defense. What are they doing to us? Why are they attacking us? Why are they attacking us from within? Why are they creating dangerous humans? I've listened to a lot of people come through this whole thing. And with the FBI agents sitting there, doing the work, them out front anyways, them bringing in other people, and basically making them dangerous and sending them back out into society, what happens to them? Do they go out and offend their families, offend people? You know, they're taught that hurting people is going to make them feel good. So when they don't feel good, are they going to hurt people? Is NSA going to go out and pick those people up and cause them to be violent? I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but I have listened to them do it to a lot of people. I think it's a serious situation. I think it is a public health emergency, a mental health emergency, to be sure, because these people are not just mentally ill, but they're violently mentally ill. And maybe some of these hate crimes that we're seeing are being carried out by people who have been made mentally ill and are driven to do this by electronics. Okay, so 6 priorities, that's really what I wanted to get at. I've gone on a bit, but 6 priorities. Hurt him, worship him, sexually assault him, raise hell, perpetuate this, and simulate work. These men doing this to me, no matter who they get, as they get groomed and become functional, whatever they're doing, they always fit those priorities. Beyond that, I have identified no consistent priority within them. Self-destruction seems like maybe an unspoken terminal objective. Certainly, self-preservation is not something in their economy. And I've seen that to be very true. Okay, I'll talk more about some of the things that I've seen, some of the things I've experienced, some things that have been horrifying. Till we meet again, God bless you.